Where the hell do you think you're going? Jessica's voice sliced through the hallway like a blade. I turned, halfway zipped into my duffel bag, sunglasses already hooked onto my shirt collar. Babe, it's my birthday weekend. I booked this getaway 3 months ago. I told you. She laughed. No. She cackled, like something straight out of a teen drama villain audition. And her sister Megan, that freeloading parasite, chimed in with a smirk. Jessica stepped forward and shoved a folded piece of paper into my chest. Here's your real birthday gift. I opened it. A list. A full page. Repaint the deck. Fix the bathroom tiles. Clean out the attic. Grocery run. Mow the lawn. She leaned in, her lips brushing my cheek. Fake as hell. Stay and work. I blinked, confused. Wait, what are you two doing? Megan swung her bag over her shoulder, all dressed in beachwear, a margarita glass in her hand, like we were on spring break. Hawaii, baby. Our trip. Not yours. Enjoy domestic life, hubby. My jaw clenched. Our trip. I paid for this. That was your birthday gift last month. You said you booked it for the two of us. Jessica shrugged like she was bored. Changed my mind. We upgraded the tickets, too. Don't wait up. She tapped my cheek twice, grabbed her Louis Vuitton suitcase, and strutted out the door. Megan followed with a wave and a wink. I stood there, alone, on my own birthday, holding a damn chore list. I was supposed to be sipping cocktails on the beach with the woman I married. Instead, I was holding a bucket of paint and a broken heart. The day dragged like wet cement. I tried to distract myself with the deck, scraping off the old paint, replaying every moment that should have told me something was off. How she was glued to her phone lately, always smiling at something. Always tired, always working late. The way she flinched when I touched her. How Megan had basically moved in temporarily 3 months ago and never left. But the last straw came around 5 p.m., right when the sun began to sink. I went into our shared iCloud photos to check a picture from last summer. Something told me to. Habit, maybe. I didn't even mean to spy. That's when I saw it. A photo auto-uploaded from Jessica's phone. Them. In Hawaii. Jessica, Megan, and 2 shirtless guys. Guys I'd never seen. One of them had his hand on Jessica's thigh like he owned her. And she didn't flinch. Didn't fake it. She posed for it. Smiling. In my sunglasses. They had taken my trip, used my money, and were now rubbing suntan oil on strangers in the same hotel I reserved for our anniversary. My hands shook. I dropped the paintbrush and stormed inside. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Instead, I snapped a photo of the list of chores she gave me, next to a picture of her with that guy. Then I opened her inbox, logged into her email, attached both images, and hit send. Subject line, happy birthday to me. 1 hour later, the front door flew open so hard it slammed into the wall. Jessica and Megan burst in, barefoot, sunburnt, hair tangled by the wind. Where did you get that picture? She demanded, voice wild, eyes panicked. I stood at the kitchen counter, calm as hell, beer in hand. The cloud, I said. You might want to check your settings next time you're getting handsy with strangers. Megan turned pale. You hacked us. No, I smiled. You gifted it to me. Jessica stepped forward, her tone switching from fury to fake concern. Listen, babe, it's not what it looks like. That guy? He's just a friend. He gave us a tour. That's all. A tour of what? Your hotel bed. She flinched but held the act. You're overreacting. I nodded slowly, walked over to the table, and laid down the receipt from the booking, the email, and her chore list. I was willing to believe the lies before. But not after this. Jessica scoffed, folding her arms. So what now? You gonna cry? Pack up your toys and leave. I stared at her. This wasn't the woman I married. That woman used to light up around me. This one, this sarcastic, sharp-tongued stranger, she fed off my disappointment like it was oxygen. No, I said quietly. I'm going to make your life hell. One piece at a time. Megan took a step back. You're scaring me, dude. I looked at her. You should be scared. Because this wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was war. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat on the couch in the dark, scrolling through my memories. Our wedding photos, our honeymoon in Cabo, our first apartment where we couldn't afford real furniture and used milk crates for chairs. All of it looked so fake now, like some twisted highlight reel from a movie that never really happened. Jessica tried to pretend nothing had happened. She came down around midnight in one of my t-shirts like she used to, hair up, no makeup, trying to weaponize nostalgia. You're still up? she asked, stretching like she was the victim here. We can talk. If you're ready to listen. I didn't look at her. I already listened. For years. She walked over and sat on the armrest, like she had the right. You're being dramatic. I needed a break. You've been distant. I turned to her, eyes cold. You think painting a fence on my birthday while you get felled up on a beach is a break? Don't twist it, she snapped, voice finally cracking. You've been checked out for months. All you do is work. You don't even touch me anymore. You stopped letting me touch you, I said flatly. And the work you complain about? That's what paid for your fruity drinks and ocean view. She rolled her eyes. God, you always make everything about money. I stood up. She flinched slightly. You made it about money, Jess. You lied. You stole. You planned this behind my back and left me like a dog in a cage. And then you smiled in that photo like it was all some kind of joke. She got quiet then. Real quiet. And then she said something I'll never forget. Maybe it was a joke. You're not exactly the man I married. I wanted to hit something. Anything. Instead, I just walked past her and went to the garage. The next morning, she was gone. Not a word. Not a note. Just gone. Her closet was half empty, her suitcase missing. I checked the security cams. She left at 4:17 a.m., alone. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was this cold silence clinging to every wall. Later that day, Megan showed up. I didn't open the door. She stood on the porch knocking, calling out my name like we were friends. Then she screamed through the door. You don't get it, man. Jessica didn't mean to hurt you. You pushed her there. You made her feel invisible. That was rich coming from the girl who once borrowed my car for errands and returned it reeking of weed and strip club perfume. I opened the door just enough to speak through the gap. Tell her to lawyer up. I'm done. Megan's smug little smirk faltered. You're really going through with this? No. I'm going through her. And then I shut the door in her face. I started digging. Emails. Phone records. Bank statements. Turns out this wasn't a one-time mistake. There were 5 other trips she couldn't go on with me in the last 2 years. For names I didn't recognize. One I did. Her boss. A married man with 2 kids and a photoshopped smile on LinkedIn. I printed every email, every photo. I even found screenshots she'd sent Megan, bragging about how stupid I was. My favorite one. Can't believe he paid for this again. Men are so effing easy to manipulate. I didn't cry. Not once. I felt something deeper. Something heavier. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. It was realizing that every kiss, every I love you, every quiet Sunday on the couch, it was all a script. And I was the idiot reading lines from a play she stopped believing in years ago. I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A shark. My buddy Phil from college recommended her. Said she once made a guy give up his boat, car, and dog in a divorce. That's exactly what I needed. The next few days were a blur of signatures, documents, and frozen smiles. Jessica tried calling once. Left a voicemail. Look, I didn't mean for this to happen. I still love you. We can fix this. I deleted it before it ended. You can't fix a mirror after it's shattered. You can only bleed trying to hold the pieces. That night, I stood on the back porch, sipping whiskey, listening to the wind. I looked down at the list of chores she gave me on my birthday. Then I took a lighter to it. The flame curled the edges, the ink melted into black smudges, and all the weight started to drift away in smoke. I was finally done being her backup plan. Her wallet. Her audience. She chose to play me for a fool. Now it was my turn to show her how smart a fool can be. 2 days later, a black Range Rover pulled into my driveway like it owned the place. I was out front, trimming the hedges, trying to pretend that life still made sense. The door swung open, and out stepped the last person I wanted to see, Jason, Jessica's boss, the married guy from the emails, the guy who signed off her work trips and sent her hearts at midnight. He walked toward me like this was some kind of sitcom, and we were just 2 bros needing to clear the air. Hey man, I figured we should talk. I didn't answer, just kept trimming. He stood there, awkward, shifting from foot to foot. I didn't know she was still married, he said eventually. I looked up, dead in the eye. You called her your queen in that last message. You took her to Maui. She wore her wedding ring in that picture. Try again. He blinked, then cleared his throat. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I came to say sorry. I dropped the shears. Sorry? You screw my wife, take her to paradise on my birthday, and think sorry's gonna cut it. His face twisted like he was trying to look sympathetic, but it came off smug. I didn't know she lied to you like that. She lies for sport, I said. She could cheat on a lie detector and still pass. He had nothing left to say, just nodded, turned, and walked back to his car. But before he left, he gave me one last gem. She said you were boring, that she needed someone with more fire. I stood there, watching him drive off, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. And that was the moment I snapped. The fire she wanted? She was about to get it. I went inside and dug through every folder, every shared drive, every account I had access to. I found the old camera from our Italy trip in 2019, still full of her selfies. But I wasn't looking for pictures. I wanted proof. Then I found it, an old video file. One I didn't record. One she must have accidentally backed up to our home server. She was in a hotel room, laughing, drinking wine, naked under a robe. The camera shook a little and then settled as someone, probably Jason, joined her on the bed. She looked into the lens and said, "Cheers to freedom." I couldn't breathe. I'd been killing myself trying to be a good husband. Sacrificing, saving, staying loyal even when things got tough. And she toasted to freedom like I was a prison cell. I transferred the video onto a USB drive. Then I emailed it to her father. Subject, thought you should know. 2 hours later, my phone exploded. 10 missed calls. 5 texts. 1 voicemail. What the hell is wrong with you? You ruined me. I smiled. Finally, a taste of the pain she served me for breakfast. Later that night, Jessica came home. She didn't slam the door this time. She crept in like a rat, soft footsteps, barely breathing. I was sitting at the table, sipping coffee like I hadn't just detonated her social life. She looked like hell, smeared mascara, red eyes, hands shaking. "You sent it to my dad?" she hissed. "Are you insane?" I didn't answer, just took another sip. "You think this is over?" she screamed. "You think this makes you strong? This makes you a joke." "I was a joke," I said. "Now I'm the punchline that bites back." She stood there, hands curled into fists. "You embarrassed me. My mom's not even speaking to me." I laughed. "That's your problem? Not the cheating? Not the months of lies?" She didn't even flinch. "I never loved you," she whispered. "I married you because I thought you were safe. Because you were easy." I stood up, walked over, and looked her dead in the eyes. "And now?" She swallowed. "Now I know better." I nodded slowly. "Good." Then I handed her an envelope. Inside, the final divorce papers, signed, with my lawyer's notes stapled on top. "You've got 48 hours to respond. After that, it gets ugly." She stared at it, stunned. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. I leaned in. "Because you gave me chores on my birthday and flew to paradise to let someone else undress you." She didn't say another word, just took the envelope and walked out. I watched her go. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. And for the first time in a long, long time, I knew what peace tasted like. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. No alarm. No screaming. No fake good morning kisses. Just silence. And damn, it was beautiful. I made a pot of coffee. Strong. Black. The way she used to complain about. She always added almond milk, a splash of syrup, a sprinkle of cinnamon like it was a Starbucks commercial. I drank mine straight. Like the truth. Around 9 a.m., I got a text from Megan. "You're destroying her life. She's crying nonstop. Please stop." I stared at the screen, took a slow sip, and didn't reply. Because that was rich. Coming from the same sister who helped pack Jessica's bikinis for the trip and joked about escaping the prison husband. These two weren't sisters. They were a goddamn tag team of betrayal. Around noon, Phil, my lawyer, called. "She's stalling. Her lawyer's trying to play the sympathy card. They're asking if you'll settle quietly, no exposure, no asset freeze." I laughed into the phone. "Let her squirm. We do this my way." Phil chuckled. "I thought you'd say that. You're finally starting to sound like the man you should have been when you married her." I hung up and stared out the window. It was raining now. Soft and steady. The kind of rain that feels like it's washing things away. That's when I heard the knock. Not the loud, angry kind. Soft. Timid. I opened the door, and there she was. Jessica. Drenched. No makeup. Just a hoodie, wet hair, and red eyes. I didn't know where else to go," she mumbled. I stepped aside but didn't say a word. She walked in like a ghost, arms wrapped around herself. Sat on the couch where we used to watch dumb reality shows. The same couch where she used to rest her legs on my lap and pretend like nothing was wrong while texting her little side projects. I screwed up, she whispered. I didn't move. She looked up at me. I don't know why I did what I did. I thought I deserved more. I finally spoke. More than what? She paused. More than lawn work. Grocery runs. Sitting around waiting for you to stop being tired. I nodded slowly. So you traded vows for vodka shots and pool boys. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I snapped. And you know what's worse? I believed you. Every time you said you were tired, I believed it. Every time you said girls' night, I wished you fun. Every single goddamn lie. I swallowed because I thought love meant trusting even when it hurts. She buried her face in her hands. I hate what I did to you, she whispered. No, Jessica, I said coldly. You hate what you did to yourself. You don't miss me. You miss what I gave you. Stability, loyalty, a safe place to land after flying around in your circus. She cried harder. I lost everything, she sobbed. My job, my family, you. I sat down across from her. You didn't lose me. You threw me away like a receipt from a dress you planned on returning. Her voice cracked. Can we at least talk? Try therapy. I stood back up. You want therapy now? After you laughed in my face on my birthday? After you told me I was boring? She looked up, desperate. I said that out of anger. No, you said that out of truth. Out of who you are. She reached for me. I stepped back. I came here hoping we could fix things, she whispered. I nodded. You can fix things. Her eyes lit up. With yourself? I finished. But not with me. The light disappeared from her face. I want a clean break, I said. You get nothing more than what we agreed. No alimony. No second chances. She started shaking. You're serious. I've never been more serious in my life. She stood, slowly, like the weight of her choices was finally settling in her bones. She looked around the house one last time, at the photos still on the walls, the couch, the kitchen she never cooked in, and said, You'll regret this. I smiled. I already regret ever thinking you were someone worth loving. And then she left. No slamming door. No last words. Just silence. This time, it felt final. This time, it felt like freedom. 3 weeks passed. 3 glorious, quiet, brutal weeks. The paperwork was moving fast. Jessica's lawyer kept trying to slow things down, probably hoping I'd cool off, forget, maybe reconsider. But every time I opened the folder labeled Jessica's files, the rage came rushing back. Not just the betrayal, but the way she made me feel like I deserved it. Like I'd earned being treated like a backup generator. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was how easy it was for her to tell them. Phil called again. She's panicking. Wants to negotiate. I smirked. She can negotiate with her therapist. I'm not interested. You sure? He asked. We could get more if we drag this through court. I didn't hesitate. I don't want more. I want her gone. That weekend, I got a message from someone unexpected, Caleb, Jessica's ex. We'd only met once. He was at a Christmas party a few years back, standing by the door like he was ready to bolt. At the time, I thought he was just shy. Now I realized he probably just didn't want to be around her. The message said, I heard what happened. Just so you know, she did the same to me. You're not the first, but you can be the last. Attached was a folder. Screenshots. Messages. A photo of her and Caleb, timestamped just 5 months before our wedding. She told me she'd stop talking to him after they broke up. Of course she did. I didn't even get angry this time. I just sat back, arms crossed, breathing slow. It all made sense now. The way she rushed the wedding, the sudden girls' trips, the walls she put up anytime I tried to talk about our future. She was never building anything with me. She was hiding. A few nights later, I was at a bar downtown. Just me, a whiskey neat, and silence. A woman took the seat next to me. Blonde, confident, green eyes with the kind of look that says, I've been through hell, too. She ordered a drink, glanced at me, then said, You look like a guy who's either planning a murder or finalizing a divorce. I chuckled. Option B. She raised her glass. To clean slates. We talked. Her name was Rachel. Divorced. Her ex cheated, too. Typical story. She worked late. He worked her best friend. We swapped scars like war stories, and for the first time in weeks, I felt normal. Not whole, not healed, but real. I didn't tell her everything. Just enough. As I walked her to her car, she turned and said, Don't let her take more than she already has. That line stuck with me. Jessica didn't just take my trust. She tried to take my identity, my peace, my self-respect. But the difference now? I had it back. I wasn't the same guy she left behind, standing with a chore list on his birthday like a clown. I was rebuilding. 2 days later, the divorce was finalized. No courtroom drama. No drawn-out fight. Just signatures, silence, and the sound of finality. When I walked out of the lawyer's office, I stood on the steps and took the deepest breath I've ever taken. Then I laughed. Loud. Ugly. Free. Jessica never texted. Never called. Just disappeared like a bad dream fading with daylight. A week later, Megan tried one more time. Sent me a picture of her and Jessica on some rooftop bar with the caption, "Hope you're enjoying your sad little house." I replied with a single photo, me, smiling, holding a hammer in front of a wall I was demolishing. Caption, "It's not sad. It's a renovation. Kind of like my life." No reply. Of course. Because people like them. Once the spotlight turns off, they don't know what to do. They need an audience. And I'd finally walked out of the theater. Let the curtains fall. A month passed. Then two. The silence wasn't just peaceful, it was addictive. No lies creeping through the cracks. No fake apologies. No tiptoeing around moods I didn't create. Just air, space, and the sound of my own voice returning. The house felt different now. The same walls. The same floors. But everything had shifted. I'd replaced the bed. Got a new couch. Burned every photo of us I could find. Even the wedding album, gone. Not out of bitterness. Out of necessity. You don't heal by clinging to the ashes. I'd repainted the guest room. Started running every morning at 6 a.m. Cut sugar. Cut the noise. Cut everything that reminded me of her. People at work started noticing. I looked better. Spoke sharper. Walked with something new in my chest, like armor that grew from scars. Then one night, it happened. I was in the garage, working on a shelf I promised myself I'd build 6 months ago when the Ring camera pinged. Motion at the front door. I walked over, expecting some delivery. Instead, it was her. Jessica, holding an umbrella in one hand, a duffel bag in the other. Same look, as always, soft makeup, perfectly curled hair, that forced expression she wore when she wanted something. She rang the bell once. I watched through the camera feed, arms crossed. She didn't know I was watching. She checked her phone, paced, looked at the door again. Finally, I stepped outside. Didn't say anything. She looked up, tried to smile. "Hey, why are you here?" I asked. Her eyes did that thing again. Wet, pitiful, the act she used on me 100 times before. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, voice low. "Megan left. Jason fired me. I've been lost." "That's not my problem," I said calmly. "I know," she said quickly. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I'm not asking for much. Just a couch. A night. A chance to breathe." I stared at her for a long time. The rain kept falling. She looked so small in it. So fragile. But I remembered. I remembered how she laughed while I stood with a chore list in my hand, like a servant on his own birthday. I remembered the photo of that guy's hand on her thigh. I remembered how she said I was boring. And I remembered how I almost believed her. "You want to come in?" I said quietly. Her eyes lit up. "Yes. Thank you." To say goodbye. She blinked. I stepped closer. "You don't get to crawl back into the life you set on fire. You made your bed in hotel rooms and private pools and lies. Now sleep in it." Her lips parted. "You don't understand what it's like." "Stop," I said. "I understand exactly what it's like. To love someone who uses that love as a leash. To wait up all night and pretend it's normal. To be loyal to a woman who saw me as a backup plan." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to." "You meant every second of it," I snapped. "Because it was easy. Because I made it easy. But I'm done being the soft place you land when life gets too hard." She stepped back, wounded. Good. She needed to feel what I felt. Just for a moment. "Go find someone else to lie to," I said. "I don't live here anymore." She looked confused. "What?" "I mean the man you used to know. He's gone. You buried him under guilt and gaslighting. The guy's standing here now." I smirked. "He doesn't even hate you. He just sees you for what you really are." She didn't move. Just stood there, lips trembling. Then, finally, she turned. Walked down the steps. Back into the rain. And I didn't feel sad. Or satisfied. Or victorious. I felt done. Like closing the door wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Later that night, I deleted her contact. Then I took the last photo we ever took together. Us at some overpriced dinner, her smiling like the knife wasn't already in my back, and I deleted that too. No backup. No folder. No trace. It was over. For real this time. 2 more months went by. No more texts. No emails. No surprise visits. Not even Megan popping up with one of her passive-aggressive guilt trips. It was like they finally understood they couldn't reach me anymore. And I liked that. I kept moving forward. The house started to feel more like mine. Not ours. Not a museum of fake memories. Just mine. I replaced her paintings in the hallway with framed vinyl covers. Swapped the gray curtains she picked with deep navy ones I actually liked. Tore down the stupid wall decal in the bedroom that said, "Live, laugh, love." That always felt like a lie anyway. Like the motto of someone desperate to look happy while slowly rotting inside. Sometimes I'd sit outside at night with a glass of bourbon and just be still. No noise. No questions. No pretending. And then one day, something strange happened. I woke up and didn't think about her at all. Not even once. I brushed my teeth, made my coffee, checked emails, went for a jog, and it wasn't until I sat down at my desk that I realized I hadn't pictured her face that morning. No mental replay of old arguments. No echo of her voice. Just silence. That's when I knew I wasn't healing anymore. I was healed. I even started dating again. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee, conversations, getting to know people again without looking over my shoulder, wondering when the lie would drop. It was weird how different it felt. Lighter. No pressure to prove my worth. No walking on eggshells to avoid triggering some imaginary drama. Just real people. With real pasts. Trying to figure out a real future. One night, I took Rachel, the woman from the bar, out for dinner. We'd kept in touch, texted occasionally, even met once for coffee. This was our first actual date. She looked stunning. Confident. Not like she was trying to impress anyone. Just like herself. We talked about everything. Music. Travel. Regret. Growth. What it means to start over when everything's been torn down. At one point, she asked me, "Do you still think about her?" I paused, and then said, "Not with pain." She nodded, like she understood. "I don't want someone perfect," she said. "Just someone honest. Someone who's done lying to themselves." That line hit harder than it should have. Because that's exactly what Jessica had done to me. But I let it happen. I ignored the red flags. I believed the lies because I wanted them to be true. Because I was afraid of the truth. Not anymore. Rachel and I kept seeing each other. No games. No guessing. Just two broken people building something new, brick by honest brick. One afternoon, I got a message request on Instagram. From Jessica. No profile photo. No posts. Just a name and a single message. "I hope you're okay. I think about you a lot. I miss what we had." I stared at it for a while. Not angry. Not tempted. Just bored. Because what we had wasn't real. It was a play. And I was the only one who didn't know I was acting. I didn't respond. I blocked the account. Not out of hate. Out of clarity. Out of peace. Because I finally understood something that took me way too long to learn. Love doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't mock you on your birthday. It doesn't hand you a list of chores and fly off to paradise with someone else. Love shows up, stays, builds. And when it hurts, it heals, not hides. I'm not who I was when this started. And thank God for that. Because now, I'm someone I actually recognize when I look in the mirror. It was a Saturday morning. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, the kind of soft light that doesn't ask questions. It just warms the room. I stood barefoot on the tile, flipping pancakes, music playing low. Rachel was still asleep upstairs, wrapped in one of my old flannel shirts. She always said it smelled like calm. The house was quiet, not because it was empty, but because it was finally at peace. My phone buzzed once on the counter. Some spam email. I ignored it. Then, almost without thinking, I opened the old cabinet above the fridge, the one I hadn't touched in months. Tucked behind a stack of papers was the last thing I had left from that past life. The envelope from the lawyer's office. The divorce packet. Still sealed. I pulled it out, stared at it for a beat, and then dropped it into the trash. I didn't need a reminder of who I was back then. I already carried the lessons on my skin. I had learned that betrayal doesn't always show up with a knife. It can come with a kiss, a laugh, a vacation ticket in your name that someone else uses. And sometimes the worst pain doesn't scream. It just smirks. But I also learned something else. That the human heart is a stubborn damn thing. It'll bleed, crack, scream, and still, somehow, keep beating. Keep hoping. Keep reaching for something better. I stopped waiting for closure. Stopped needing apologies from someone who wouldn't know truth if it choked her. I forgave her, not for her sake, for mine, because hate is just a leash. And I was done being on a leash. Upstairs, I heard the floor creak. Rachel's footsteps, the soft sound of life, real life. I smiled to myself and poured the coffee. She walked into the kitchen, hair messy, eyes sleepy, and smiled when she saw me. "Smells good," she said. I handed her a mug and kissed her forehead. "It's going to be a good day," I said. And it was. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was honest. So here's what I'd tell anyone standing where I once stood. If someone hands you a chore list on your birthday, laughs while they fly off to paradise, and expects you to wait, don't. Close the door. Burn the list. Build something better with someone better, or with yourself. Because there's nothing lonelier than loving someone who looks at your loyalty like weakness. And there's nothing more powerful than realizing you don't need to beg to be treated right. You just need to walk away and never look back.